Every trader dreams of mastering the market, of turning every move into profit, of cracking the code that separates success from failure. But as Mark Douglas explains in Trading in the Zone, the biggest challenge in trading isn't the market itself. It's the trader's own mind. Begins with the painful truth that most traders fail, not because they lack knowledge or tools, but because they lack the right mindset. The market is an unpredictable, living force that doesn't bend to anyone's will. It doesn't care about your hopes, fears, or goals. It simply moves according to the collective behavior of millions of participants. Yet most traders enter it as if they can predict or control it. They search for certainty in an uncertain environment, and this search becomes their downfall. Mark Douglas starts by dismantling the illusion that success in trading depends on information. Many people believe that if they just read more charts, study more indicators, or get better news, they will finally find the secret. But Douglas says the real secret is psychological. The best traders don't predict, they respond. They accept the randomness of each trade, and instead of chasing certainty, they rely on probabilities. They know that any single trade can result in a win or a loss, but over time, if they follow their rules, their edge will show results. This is what separates a professional from an amateur. The reason so many traders fail, Douglas says, is because they cannot accept uncertainty. They crave being right. They treat every trade as a personal reflection of their intelligence or self-worth. When a trade goes wrong, they take it personally, feel embarrassed, angry, or afraid, and these emotions cloud their judgment. A loss becomes more than just a financial event. It becomes a wound to the ego. This is why many traders double down on losing positions, to make back their losses quickly. But this mindset is destructive. It leads to impulsive actions, revenge trading, and emotional chaos. Douglas explains that the human mind is wired for survival, not for trading. Our instincts tell us to avoid pain and seek pleasure. In the market, pain comes from losses, and pleasure comes from wins. But the problem is that both emotions, fear and greed, can lead to disaster. Prevents traders from taking valid opportunities because they're scared of losing. Greed makes them overconfident, causing them to ignore their strategy. The successful trader must learn to detach emotionally from the outcome. Each trade is just one of many, not define the trader's worth or identity. Another crucial idea in Season 1 is the concept of belief systems. Douglas reveals that every trader interprets market information through their own beliefs. Two traders can look at the same chart and see completely different things. One sees opportunity, the other sees danger. Why? Because their beliefs shape their perception. If a trader believes that losing money is failure, they'll subconsciously avoid taking trades, missing opportunities. If they believe that making money proves their intelligence, they'll take unnecessary risks to feel validated. The market, in truth, neutral. It provides endless information and opportunities. But how you see it depends on what you believe about it. Douglas pushes the reader to confront their own mental programming. Most traders come from environments where mistakes are punished and success is rewarded. Being wrong means losing marks in jobs. It can mean losing credibility. But in trading, being wrong is inevitable, and being wrong is not failure. The market doesn't care about right or wrong. It only rewards consistency and discipline. Douglas encourages traders to shift their mindset from, "I must be right," to, "I must follow my plan." This shift is difficult because it goes against years of conditioning. It is the foundation of mental freedom in trading. He describes the vicious cycle many traders fall into. They win a few trades, feel unstoppable, increasing their risk. Then a few losses come, and they panic, questioning everything. They reduce risk, hesitate, miss the next big opportunity. This back and forth of emotions keeps them stuck in mediocrity. The only way out, Douglas insists, develop mental consistency. The trader must act according to their plan regardless of recent results. They must stop interpreting each outcome emotionally and start viewing it statistically. If you have an edge that gives you a 60% chance of success, you don't panic after a few losses. You know the edge will play out over many trades. One of the most powerful messages in this part of the book is that consistency lies in the mind, not in the markets. The markets will always be uncertain, but your mental response to that uncertainty can be trained. Professional traders don't need to predict what will happen next. They only need to trust their edge. This means defining clear rules for entry, exit, and risk management, and following them with discipline. It means accepting that losses are a cost of doing business, not personal failures. Douglas introduces the idea that every moment in the market is unique. No two price movements are ever exactly the same. This means that trying to predict what will happen next based on what happened before is an illusion. Instead, the trader must learn to think in probabilities, just like a casino. Casinos don't know which player will win or lose in the short term, but they know that over time, the odds favor the house. The professional trader must become like the house, focused on long-term probabilities, term outcomes. As the season unfolds, Douglas paints a picture of transformation. The struggling trader begins to realize that success has nothing to do with finding the perfect indicator or strategy. It's about mastering the inner game, about becoming emotionally neutral in the face of uncertainty. It's about trusting the process and letting go of the need for control. The trader who internalizes these lessons begins to feel peace instead of panic, confidence instead of confusion. In this phase, Douglas also reminds readers that trading is a mirror. It reflects back who you are. If you're impatient, fearful, or overconfident, the market will expose it. Every decision, every reaction, becomes a lesson about your own psychology. The traders who grow are those who use these lessons to improve their self-awareness, blaming the market or external factors, and start taking full responsibility for their behavior. By the end of Season 1, Douglas has laid the foundation for a new way of thinking, wants the reader to stop chasing perfect predictions and start developing consistency of mindset. The trader must understand that the market offers infinite possibilities, but only those who accept uncertainty and manage their emotions can survive in it. Losses are not enemies, they are teachers. Mistakes are not failures, they are feedback. Once a trader fully accepts this, they step into the path of real mastery. The first step toward trading in the zone begins here, with acceptance, responsibility, and the courage to think differently. In Season 2 of Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas, the journey of transformation moves from understanding failure to building the foundation of a true trader's mindset. After recognizing that emotions, beliefs, and psychological conditioning often sabotage success, Douglas now guides the reader toward mental mastery and consistency. The focus shifts from theory to practice, from knowing why traders fail to learning how to become one of the few who actually succeed. At the heart of this transformation lies one powerful principle: absolute responsibility. The trader must stop blaming the market, the news, or bad luck. Instead, take full ownership of every decision, every trade, and every result. Mark Douglas explains that taking responsibility is not about guilt or self-blame. It's about empowerment. When you blame the market, you give away your power. You imply that something outside of you controls your outcomes. But when you accept responsibility, you take that power back. You begin to realize that every result is a reflection of your actions, your preparation, and your mindset. This shift creates freedom. No longer feel like a victim of circumstances, but like the creator of your trading destiny. From that point on, journey becomes about mastering yourself rather than controlling the market. Once responsibility is accepted, Douglas moves to the next step, developing structure and discipline. He emphasizes that trading without rules is like sailing without a compass. You might move, but you have no direction. Trader needs a plan that defines the conditions under which they will enter, manage, and exit trades. This plan, known as the trading system or edge, becomes the core of consistency. But having a system is not enough. The real challenge is following it. Many traders create plans but abandon them the moment emotions get involved. Fear of loss, greed for more, or impatience makes them break their own rules. Douglas calls this self-sabotage. The true professional must learn to trust their edge completely and act upon it without hesitation or emotional interference. Thinking in probabilities is the mental framework that supports this discipline. Douglas reminds the reader that no trade is ever guaranteed. Each one has an uncertain outcome, but the key is to understand that over a large sample of trades, your edge, if real, will show consistent results. The professional trader sees the market like a casino owner sees gamblers. The casino doesn't care about individual outcomes because it knows that the odds will work in its favor over time. Similarly, a trader with a defined edge doesn't get emotionally attached to single trades. Whether they win or lose, they simply move to the next opportunity, confident that consistency will emerge over many trades. Douglas insists that thinking in probabilities is not natural for most people. Our brains crave certainty. We want to know what will happen before we act. We want assurance that our choice is correct. The market doesn't offer certainty, it offers opportunities. When traders demand certainty, they freeze, hesitate, or overanalyze. They wait for the perfect setup that never comes. Or worse, when they think they've found it, they risk too much and fall apart when it fails. The only antidote is to fully accept that uncertainty is built into the game. A professional trader does not need to know what will happen next, your full attention. They only need to know that their rules and probabilities give them an edge in the long run. Another cornerstone of the professional mindset is emotional neutrality. Douglas explains that once you begin to think in probabilities, emotions lose their power. You stop viewing each trade as a test of your intelligence or self-worth. Stop feeling ecstatic when you win and devastated when you lose. Instead, start seeing outcomes as statistical events, just data points in a larger sequence. This detachment allows you to make rational decisions even in moments of volatility. Emotional control doesn't mean you stop feeling fear or excitement. It means you stop letting those feelings dictate your actions. Douglas also teaches that traders must trust themselves enough to act without hesitation. Hesitation is often disguised as caution, but in reality, fear of being wrong. When you hesitate, you send mixed signals to your subconscious mind. You're saying, I want to win, I don't want to lose. This internal conflict creates confusion and inconsistency. The market rewards those who can act with clarity and confidence. Once you have a defined edge and clear rules, hesitation should no longer exist. Your only job is to execute your plan faithfully. In building the foundation of the trader's mindset, Douglas also warns against the illusion of control. Most people approach trading as if they can force the market to behave a certain way. They look for patterns, signals, news, hoping to predict exact movements. But Douglas dismantles this illusion. The market does not conform to anyone's expectations, is an independent system of countless variables. Trying to control it leads to frustration and emotional breakdown. The trader's only true control lies in their actions, their entries, exits, and risk management. By focusing on what can be controlled and letting go of what cannot, the trader achieves peace of mind and professional stability. Another major lesson in this phase is the acceptance of randomness. Douglas encourages traders to embrace the fact that each market moment is unique. Two patterns, price movements, or reactions will ever be identical. This means there's no way to be certain about the outcome of any single trade, but paradoxically, once you accept randomness, you become consistent. You stop expecting the market to behave predictably and instead learn to adapt to whatever it gives you. The edge doesn't promise individual wins, it promises success over a series of trades. Douglas emphasizes that this acceptance transforms fear into confidence. Fear exists when you try to avoid loss or pain, but when you accept that losses are normal, fear disappears. Confidence arises not from predicting correctly, but from knowing that you can handle whatever happens. This is the mindset of the professional. They don't need the market to cooperate, they just need to perform their role faithfully. Season 2 also explores the relationship between beliefs and execution. A trader's outer actions reflect their inner beliefs. If you secretly believe that you're unlucky, unworthy of success, or incapable of mastering trading, your subconscious will sabotage you. You'll find yourself making careless mistakes, breaking rules, or missing opportunities. Douglas urges traders to examine and replace these limiting beliefs. The key is to build a belief system aligned with reality and success. Belief in uncertainty, belief in probabilities, belief in your edge, and belief in yourself. Finally, Douglas paints a vision of the trader as a disciplined craftsman. Just as a pilot follows checklists before every flight, a trader must follow their system every day. This discipline becomes a ritual, a habit, a state of mind. You stop needing motivation because consistency becomes part of your identity. You learn to measure success not by profit alone, by how well you executed your plan. A losing trade can still be a successful one if it followed your rules. A winning trade that broke your plan is a failure because it was based on luck, not discipline. By the end of Season 2, the trader who once acted impulsively begins to operate with calm order and control. They no longer fight the market or themselves. They trust their edge, probabilities, and act without emotional attachment. Responsibility replaces blame, structure replaces chaos, and discipline replaces fear. Mark Douglas shows that true mastery begins not with a strategy, but with the mind that executes it. When the trader builds this foundation, are finally ready to move toward the next stage, learning to perceive the market clearly and act effortlessly, without hesitation or fear. In Season 3 of Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas, the focus turns inward, to the mind, the beliefs, and the perceptions that shape how every trader interacts with the market. After understanding why traders fail and how to build a solid foundation of discipline, Douglas now takes the reader deeper into the hidden forces that influence every decision. The market, he explains, is neutral. It doesn't favor anyone. It doesn't punish or reward anyone personally. It simply reflects the collective actions of all participants. Yet, each trader experiences the market differently because each trader filters information through their own beliefs and emotions. This means two traders can look at the same chart and see opposite things. One sees an opportunity, while the other sees danger. The difference isn't in the market, it's in their minds. Douglas explains that our beliefs act like lenses through which we interpret the world. Trading, these beliefs determine how we perceive price action, patterns, and signals. If you believe the market is out to get you, you will interpret every move against your position as confirmation of that belief. If you believe you are destined to fail, will subconsciously find ways to lose, even when the setup is perfect. Likewise, if you believe trading is easy money, will take reckless risks until reality teaches you otherwise. The challenge, Douglas says, is that most of these beliefs are unconscious. They were formed through past experiences, childhood lessons, or emotional events. Unless you bring them to light and examine them, they will continue to control your behavior without your awareness. One of Douglas's most powerful teachings is that what you perceive in the market is not necessarily what is true, it's what you expect to be true. Expectations create emotional tension. When the market behaves as expected, you feel confident and validated. But when it doesn't, you feel frustrated, anxious, or betrayed. This emotional reaction clouds judgment and leads to impulsive decisions. Douglas teaches that the trader's goal should not be to make the market fit their expectations, but to see the market exactly as it is. To do this, a trader must learn to detach emotionally and stop interpreting events through the filter of hope or fear. The market simply moves. Your job is to observe and respond, not to predict and react emotionally. At this stage, Douglas introduces the idea that every moment in the market is unique. No two patterns, setups, or price movements will ever be exactly the same. This means that no amount of past experience can guarantee what will happen next. The only thing you can rely on is probability. When traders forget this, start making emotional connections between unrelated events. For example, they might say, "The last time this pattern appeared, I made money, it will work again." But the truth is, the circumstances are always slightly different. Douglas urges traders to release their attachment to past experiences and focus only on the present moment. By accepting the uniqueness of each market moment, open yourself to objective perception and genuine flow. Another key theme of this season is emotional control and execution. Douglas explains that once you have a well-defined edge, your main task is execution. But execution requires mental alignment. Many traders know what they should do, yet they fail to do it consistently. This gap between knowing and doing is caused by emotional interference. When fear, greed, or overconfidence take over, rational thinking shuts down. Fear causes hesitation. You see a valid setup but can't pull the trigger. Greed causes recklessness. You take excessive risk because you want more. Overconfidence blinds you to danger. You ignore signals that go against your position. To operate in the zone, Douglas says, you must remove these emotions from the decision-making process entirely. Detachment is not about suppressing emotions, it's about neutralizing their power. The trader must reach a state where the outcome of a trade does not affect their emotional balance. Whether it's a win or a loss, both are viewed as natural outcomes of the trading process. This is where discipline transforms into a mindset. You act not because you are sure of the result, but because the setup fits your plan. You no longer need the market to confirm your self-worth or intelligence. You simply trade because it is your job, your craft, chosen way to engage with probability. Douglas also dives into how self-image influences trading performance. If deep down you believe that you don't deserve success, or that you are not good enough, your subconscious will make sure you stay consistent with that belief. This is why traders often experience repeated patterns of failure. They make progress, confidence, and then somehow sabotage themselves. Their results return to the level their self-image allows. To break this cycle, a trader must change not just their strategy, but their identity. You must begin to see yourself as a consistently disciplined, emotionally stable professional. This identity, once internalized, naturally produces consistent results. In this stage of the journey, Douglas also discusses the danger of needing to be right. Many traders equate being right with winning, and being wrong with losing. This belief is toxic because it turns trading into an ego battle instead of a probability-based process. A professional trader doesn't care about being right. They care about making money over time. They know that even if they are wrong on several trades, their edge ensures long-term profitability. But when your self-esteem depends on being right, you will cling to losing positions, refuse to cut losses, add to bad trades out of stubbornness. The need to be right is the enemy of consistency. Douglas suggests replacing the need to be right with the need to follow your process. When you focus on execution instead of outcome, you free yourself from emotional stress. Every trade becomes an opportunity to practice discipline, patience, and mental control. This approach transforms losses into valuable feedback rather than painful defeats. You begin to see trading as a long-term learning journey rather than a daily test of skill. Another important insight Douglas shares is the concept of the market's perspective. The market, he says, is like a mirror reflecting human behavior on a global scale. It doesn't care who you are or what you want. It only reflects the collective psychology of everyone involved. When you stop personalizing market moves, you begin to understand that every fluctuation is simply energy expressed through price. This understanding brings calmness and objectivity. You no longer feel attacked when the market moves against you or overly proud when it goes your way. You begin to act from a place of observation rather than reaction. By the end of Season 3, the trader who once viewed the market as a battlefield begins to see it as a classroom. Every trade, whether good or bad, becomes a lesson about belief, perception, and execution. You begin to understand that the market is not against you, it is merely a reflection of your own inner state. The more balanced, disciplined, and objective you become, the more consistent your results will be. When your mind stops interfering with your actions, trading starts to flow naturally. You don't force trades, you allow them. You don't chase profits, you follow probabilities. This is the essence of what Douglas calls trading in the zone. A state of mind where fear and greed no longer control you, where every decision is made from clarity and confidence, and where you operate in harmony with the natural flow of the market. Season 3 marks the transformation from mechanical discipline to psychological mastery. It's the moment when trading stops being a struggle and becomes an expression of calm awareness, where the trader no longer fights the market but moves with it, effortlessly and consistently, one trade at a time. In Season 4 of Trading in the Zone by Mark Douglas, the trader finally reaches the stage of mastery. The point where discipline, confidence, and emotional control come together to form a calm, powerful state of awareness known as the zone. This is the mental space where trading stops being stressful and becomes natural, where decisions flow effortlessly, and where fear, hesitation, and self-doubt no longer interfere. Douglas describes this level of mastery not as a mystical experience, but as the result of deep mental conditioning. It is the reward for every lesson learned in the earlier stages. Understanding failure, building structure, and transforming beliefs. The zone represents the ultimate balance between logic and intuition, between analysis and trust. The point where the trader no longer fights the market or themselves, but simply flows with it. At this stage, the trader fully accepts the truth about the market. It is uncertain, it is random, and it is beyond control. But paradoxically, that uncertainty is what makes trading consistent when approached with the right mindset. Douglas explains that the professional trader no longer needs to predict the future or know exactly what will happen next. They understand that their edge gives them a statistical advantage over time. This allows them to act decisively, without hesitation. The amateur fears uncertainty, the professional embraces it. When a trader stops trying to eliminate uncertainty and instead works within it, they experience true freedom. Each trade becomes just one of many in a long series, and no single outcome holds emotional power. In the zone, the trader is fully present in the moment. Their attention is not trapped in the past by regret, nor in the future by worry, are completely focused on what is happening right now. Douglas explains that presence is critical, because the market only exists in the now. The past is gone, and the future hasn't happened yet. The trader who can stay anchored in the present reacts with clarity and precision. They no longer chase missed opportunities or hold on to fear from past losses. Instead, they see each new moment as unique and fresh, uncolored by emotional baggage. This mental clarity creates a natural flow where trading decisions feel effortless. Douglas also emphasizes that being in the zone doesn't mean never feeling emotions. It means emotions no longer control behavior. Fear, greed, excitement, and frustration may still appear, but they pass through without affecting decisions. The trader becomes an observer of their own mind, watching emotions rise and fall without attachment. This emotional neutrality is what allows consistent execution. When you no longer judge yourself for losses or praise yourself excessively for wins, you reach psychological balance. From this balance comes consistency. Consistency comes long-term success. In this final stage, Douglas describes how professional traders operate much like casino owners. They don't focus on the result of a single bet. They focus on probabilities and discipline. They know that the law of large numbers will eventually bring their edge to life. Similarly, a trader in the zone understands that some trades will lose and some will win, but overall, the system works. This acceptance removes emotional swings and creates confidence rooted in experience, not hope. Confidence becomes quiet and steady, not loud and boastful. It is the deep knowing that no matter what happens, you can handle it. Douglas points out that many traders reach this level only after letting go of the ego. The ego wants to be right, to control, to prove something. But the zone can only be reached when the ego becomes silent. The trader no longer trades to feel important or to prove intelligence. They trade because it's their craft. They stop seeing the market as an opponent and start seeing it as a partner. The goal is not to conquer the market, but to align with its rhythm. This shift from control to cooperation is what unlocks effortless performance. When you stop fighting the flow, you become part of it. In this state, tuition begins to play a greater role. Intuition is not guessing or gambling. It's the subconscious mind processing information faster than conscious thought. When a trader spends years studying patterns, charts, and probabilities, their brain absorbs vast amounts of data. In the zone, This knowledge surfaces as intuition. You simply feel when something is right, and you act on it without doubt. Douglas explains that this intuitive sense is not magical. It's the result of total trust in your process combined with deep experience. When emotion and fear are quiet, intuition speaks clearly. The trader's mind becomes calm, and action becomes immediate. Risk management remains central to this phase. Douglas reminds the reader that no matter how experienced or intuitive a trader becomes, they must always respect risk. The professional in the zone does not over-leverage or gamble. They treat risk as a tool, not an enemy. They define their maximum loss before every trade and accept it fully before entering. This acceptance prevents emotional panic when losses occur. Risk management allows freedom. It gives the trader confidence to trade boldly without fear, knowing that no single loss can destroy their capital or their mindset. Douglas also describes how being in the zone transforms a trader's daily experience. Of anxiety there is calm. Instead of impatience, there is patience. Instead of chasing profits, there is focus on process. Trading becomes a game of discipline, not desire. The trader stops counting every dollar and starts counting every correct decision. The market no longer feels hostile, it becomes a neutral field of opportunity. Success feels less like luck and more like the natural outcome of doing the right thing repeatedly. At this point, Douglas introduces the ultimate mindset shift. The trader realizes that the goal is not perfection but probability. Perfectionists often fail in trading because they expect every move to work. They obsess over mistakes and fear losses, but the trader in the zone knows that perfection doesn't exist. Only patterns of probability. They know that even the best setups sometimes fail, even random trades sometimes win. What matters is not one trade but the sequence of many. This long-term perspective removes emotional extremes and keeps performance stable. The zone is not a permanent state. It must be maintained through awareness and discipline. Distractions, ego, and emotional stress can pull you out of it. That's why Douglas encourages daily mental conditioning. The trader must review trades objectively, meditate on their mindset, and constantly remind themselves of the principles of uncertainty, probability, and discipline. The zone is not a place you reach once, a state you return to again and again through conscious practice. By the end of Season 4, the trader has evolved into a true professional. Calm, confident, consistent, and self-aware. They no longer measure success by individual wins or losses, but by their ability to remain centered in uncertainty. The trader who began the journey searching for control ends by realizing that control lies only within. The market will always be unpredictable. Their response to it can be steady, disciplined, and precise. This is what Douglas means by trading in the zone. A mental state where fear disappears, clarity reigns, and action flows effortlessly. When the trader reaches this level, trading becomes more than a profession. It becomes a reflection of mastery over oneself, no longer about chasing profits but about expressing calm focus and complete trust in the process. In this zone, the trader finds peace not in winning every trade, but in knowing they are doing exactly what needs to be done, moment by moment, trade by trade. This is the final transformation that Mark Douglas envisioned. The mind of a trader fully aligned with the truth of the market, where consistency is not forced but natural, and success is simply the byproduct of total mental freedom.